So I think I've got like 25 minutes. So I'm going to try to get to the how-to of each of these because we can do that. We don't have to do martial arts. Martial arts is one of the best ways to develop this, but we have to do something physical. And I think everybody here, almost everybody here is into health and fitness. So there's some form of exercise that you can do to help develop this. You can't develop it to the degree that I'm telling you without something physical. It's impossible. Okay? A lot of this is mental, but it's the physicality that will bring it out of you, doing something physical in conjunction with all of these. Okay? So let's look at the focus. This is just an exercise in widening our focus using our peripheral vision and narrowing it. Okay? So all we have to do is something physical. When we are assessing the room, look at my posture. I'm looking up and I'm using my peripheral vision and I'm using this anchor, this kinesthetic anchor to look around. Okay? So you can literally walk around and practice your focus, but what happens when we want to zero in on something? What do we do? Physically with our eyes. Squint. You squint. Your chin goes down. You look. See, me, when I'm talking to somebody, especially like Steve, I look at his nose. I'm thinking about, yeah, there's a little sexual energy over here. Fuck you up. But that's, you know, it's that feeling, but the squinting. See, when we focus in on something. So you want to practice oscillating between the extremes. And each one of these, that's the secret. When you oscillate between the extremes, and you can do it at will. You don't need a cue. You don't need to get pumped up. It just happens. Okay? And you'll see with fighters, you know, they have to get to a certain state before they do that, before they get into their fight. That's something a little bit different. Okay? And they have the luxury of time. See, an MMA fight or a cage fight is not a street fight. And so we don't have the luxury of preparing for it other than our training outside of it. But when it happens, it's going to happen. Hopefully it never does, but if it's going to and it happens, we have to have the ability to respond instantly to it. Otherwise, you're fucked, right? If somebody jumps out from a bush and is intent on attacking you, and you don't have that in your mind and no training, you'll well have some fight or flight, but most of the chances, if you don't have that ability to you know, the guy actually physically grabs you and throws you and you can't kick into that, it's going to be a tough night for you. Okay? But you don't even need it for that. But it's that ability to go from 0 to 100 that is the secret. Okay? So we want to oscillate back and forth from wide to this. So you can just pick one thing out in the room, look at it, and go wide. And look at it. Right? And this can be used in seduction. And actually, I told Steve a long time ago, because I occasionally look at some of his stuff. I'm married now. But I occasionally look at some of his stuff, right? And when he does his rapport cycling, what is that? That's like a fractionation. Is anybody familiar with his rapport cycling? So what he's doing is he's taking the state from a light, open, playful, and then he's turning up the intensity, and he's focusing. And then you go back, and it fractionates the subject. See, so this phenomena exists in everything, right? So our focus, we want to go from wide to narrow. So our intent, our thought process. Remember, we want to have as little internal dialogue as possible. We want to turn it down because we don't want to get caught up in the subjective mind. We don't want to get caught up with what's in here, with what we think should be out there, because we need to assess. Especially in a life and death situation, you better know what's going on around you. If you don't know who's friends with who, that's your fault because you're too focused. You need to open your awareness. So we need to have a type of, this type of, hey, look at that, hey, look at that, hey, look at that. We take the peripheral and we're pointing it out to ourselves. So mentally, like, nice blue shirt, nice light, that light's bright. You know, things that we're observing, bright to me, that are in our peripheral. And then we want to focus in on one thing and just, that's the one thing that exists, so candy, right? But it's an oscillation, so we want to do this as an exercise, focus. Exercise, focus. Exercise, focus, right? We want it like that. That's a simple way, and that's something you can do without the martial arts. But I'm going to put this all together for you in a physical activity that will elicit this out of you. Because if you're going to exercise anyway, you can do this without too many people going, what the fuck is that guy doing? Right? So that's what we want. We don't want to look too crazy, but we want to be able to be crazy when we want to. So our actions, if you're talking about footwork, side to side, right? So I can just literally jump rope, and then when I go to this, sprint forward and go back to jumping rope. Sprint forward, back. Emotions. So once we get all these things in sync, because we want to shift our focus, our intent, and our actions all at the same time, our emotions have to go with it. So what's one way to start to control emotions?
Observe them.
Observe them.
Breathe.
Breathing. Breathing. And you will observe them. You will. You'll feel the initial, and then you'll observe where they go through your body. Breathing. So when we're here, easiest way is breathe from your diaphragm. Just that. Remind yourself, breathe from your diaphragm more often. Because we carry our emotions to a large extent up here, especially when it's life or death. So we can purposely guide our emotions up here. I always like to make that like it goes up your thing, because it comes from our base, from here to here. And usually when you're exerting yourself, you're going to breathe from there anyway. If it's 100%, if it's a sprint, a burpee, something like that. Okay, where you're going 100%, you're going to breathe from up here. Okay? So what's an exercise where we can use all these that I can give you guys? Well, one thing I'll suggest, and I think hitting stuff is one of the best ways, but since some of you guys probably won't do that, hitting other human beings is even better, right? It's probably the best thing. But what we'll do is we have our focus. So what is your focus? One of the best things, very simple, easy. I'm going to just write this down. Tabata rounds. Who knows what Tabata rounds are? Anybody? What's a Tabata round?
20 seconds of max effort, and then 10 seconds of rest.
Right. So 20 seconds. So you pick an exercise. It can be squats. It can be whatever, right? What are these types of squats called? Yeah.
Jump squat.
No. Never mind. You can do jump squats, but whatever. Okay, so whatever your exercise, it can be push-ups, it can be burpees, whatever it is. But in my opinion, it's got to be something where you're exerting yourself, where your whole body's involved almost. Okay, but we want Tabata rounds. You said it was 20 seconds on of intense exercise with 10 seconds off. So we change this and say Tabata rounds with random intervals. But your exertion interval doesn't exceed the 20 seconds.